Hey, truth be told, this is Tony Sweet and Captain Ron. We are at the 50th, not 5, but 50th Symposium for MUFON here in Irvine, California. And we have a returning guest of Truth Be Told, Kathleen Marden. And we had the pleasure of interviewing her for the first time at the 70th anniversary of Roswell. And we were there with you and Stanton Freeman, and unfortunately, we lost him. And I just want to ask, because I know you were partners in crime and writing a book together. Could you tell us a little bit of how you're doing with it, and how's that inspired you to continue his work and yours?
Well, Stanton and I wrote 3 books together. We worked together for about 14 years. We met initially through my aunt Betty Hill, because Stanton was a proponent of Marjorie Fish's work on Betty's star map. And Betty told me, before she died, that if I needed any assistance in writing the book that I'd been working on for many years about her case, that I should go to Stan Friedman. So I ended up doing that at the MUFON Symposium in 2005 in Denver, Colorado. And Stanton came to my house. I was living in Stratham, New Hampshire at the time, live in Florida now. But he came down, he spent a few days with us and went through all of the records that Betty had left. I'm the trustee of the estate, so I had everything, and set up an archival collection at the University of New Hampshire. Stanton talked to me, he read the manuscript that I had written, and at the end he agreed to work with me, stating that he would do this because I was being unbiased, I was being scientific in what I was doing. Over time, working together, we realized that we worked together very, very well. We tolerated each other well. He was very, very funny. I loved his sense of humor. It was like clockwork with us, where we didn't even have to speak. We just knew what to do when we were working together. We went to archival collections. We were both very, very interested in the history of government involvement in the study of UFOs, in their findings, in their major studies, and their decision to cover up the information that they had discovered, who was involved in the cover-up. And the last book that the two of us wrote together was Fact, Fiction, and Flying Saucers. Thank you. And I'm very, very proud of that book, because we worked very hard, particularly at the American Philosophical Society in Philadelphia, making trips there where Philip Klass's archival collection was located, where Edward Condon had correspondence files. Of course, he was the head of the Colorado study on UFOs. Robert Lowe, who ran the project. Also, Donald Menzel, Dr. Donald Menzel from Harvard, come to find out, was on the board of directors at the American Philosophical Society. I was wondering why Philip Klass, who had a bachelor's degree in electrical engineering and was a writer and magazine editor, one of the editors for a magazine, why did he have a collection at the American Philosophical Society? This didn't make sense to me. And come to find out, Philip Klass and Donald Menzel had become very, very good friends. In fact, I found a letter where Donald Menzel had written to Philip Klass and said to him, "I'm really happy to have your assistance. I'm getting tired of all of this." Really some very revealing letters about that team of men who all knew each other, who worked together, and how Ed Condon and Donald Menzel were fishing buddies. So it was very, very interesting to go to that archive and to photograph those letters and learn so much. So it all went into that book, and I'm very proud of it.
Well, you should be, and because a lot of people have been inspired by that. And I want to ask you, because before we could talk about your newest book, I want to ask you, because of Betty and Barney Hill, it inspired you to kind of get into the research part of ufology, but Stanton Freeman kind of really took you to a different level. Can you tell our audience, for the ones that know of him, but could you tell why he was so important to the work that we're all doing now?
Well, Stanton Freeman began as a nuclear physicist. He was valedictorian of his high school class. He ended up spending a year at Rutgers University. He had been accepted to MIT, but he couldn't go because he came from a working class family, and even with scholarships, there was not enough money to send Stanton to MIT. He ended up transferring to the University of Chicago. He earned his bachelor's degree and master's degree in nuclear physics and worked for 14 years in industry on highly advanced systems. He was a true rocket scientist. He ended up buying some books. And one of the deals that was offered was, if you will just choose one more book, you'll get free shipping. And Stanton always said it was a good thing that the book that he bought was by Edward Ruppelt, who was the first director of the Air Force's Project Blue Book. And Edward Ruppelt took a very scientific approach to the study of UFOs. They had more than 1,500 cases that they had analyzed and attempted to categorize into various categories. And by 1952, the statistics were 26.7% of those cases were true unknowns. Now, we have to call them unknown scientifically. We can't say that they were extraterrestrial craft. We don't know for certain that they're coming from another star system. We don't know if they're interdimensional, if they're both. We simply don't have all of the answers, so we have to call them true unknowns. So Stanton read that book rather than Donald Menzel's book, because if he had read Donald Menzel's book, which was published for the first time in 1953, right after the Robertson panel met and decided that scientists should debunk UFOs to take the public's attention away from this presence. So Stanton said that fortunately he had read the first book that he read, and it was gave some very good information about this alien presence here. And he was really very impressed by the information that he was receiving. He had studied this for a while before he ever went public. And eventually he had to move around a lot as a nuclear physicist. He had adopted children who had disabilities. And every time he and his wife moved, it was extremely difficult for the children, having to find specialists. Not every place even had specialists in the various disabilities that they had. And he had moved to California. He received notice not long after they arrived that the funding for the project had been withdrawn. So he stayed on for a few months, but then here he is looking for another place to move to. And he decided to begin lecturing about UFOs. He called himself the Flying Saucer Physicist. He wrote to various colleges, to the student, I guess it was maybe student interest, it was that sort of thing. And he would time and time again go and lecture at colleges as he was obtaining more and more information too. And like me, he just became hooked on this. And
pretty addictive.
It is. And you want to pursue that topic. You want to learn as much as you can to know the truth and to separate fact from fiction.
Yeah. And I think that's why we appreciate him and you for continuing the research, because some people, like I said, it's just a hobby, but when it becomes a passion more than a hobby, that's when people like yourself and Stanton Freeman. So we really appreciate him and appreciate you for carrying on his legacy in some ways. So, well, I want to talk about this new book. It's your 5th book, and it's Extraterrestrial Contact: What to Do When You've Been Abducted. First of all, were you abducted? And I know your aunt and uncle, which inspired you, Betty and Barney Hill. But how did you do that research? How do you know how to present to an alien if they come to you and go, I'm an extraterrestrial? What do you do? So how did you start writing this book?
Well, I started writing the book because I am the Mutual UFO Network's Director of Experiencer Research. I have worked with experiencers for more than 30 years, but with MUFON for 30 years now. And I take a scientific approach, and I like academic studies. So I've worked on 3 academic studies on experiencers to identify commonalities that they have that are not common among the general population. And when you do these studies, you have to do social science studies over and over again because they're even less reliable than physical science studies. So also, I am, as I said, MUFON's Director of Experiencer Research. We now have a team of 29 people who speak with experiencers, who go onto MUFON's website and complete our experiencer questionnaire. It's kind of an icebreaker, and a member of the team is assigned to them. And my team speaks in a non-judgmental manner to these people who are seeking assistance, help. Maybe they just want to tell somebody and they've never had the opportunity to do that. We work under the basis of anonymity. So just to help them, they can also file a formal report for an investigation if they want to. But that is a need that we really had. After John Mack passed away, Bud Hopkins passed away, they had been doing that kind of thing, not on a national level the way that I am through MUFON, right. But there was a void suddenly. People didn't know where to go. There are so many people who have held this inside for many, many years and just need someone to talk to. They might have told a friend, they might have told a family member, and the response they got was, ha, 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 what were you drinking? Right. You know, that kind of response. That is hurtful. It is hurtful, yes. And if people have gone public with this, a lot of times they didn't even intend to go public, but it became even worse because the human response to this kind of information can be very, very hurtful. Ask Travis Walton. Right. My Aunt Betty Hill knew about that. We have a bug flying around.
Well, right, it is. And I have to say, so really what to do when you've been abducted, it's not necessarily once you come face to face, it's really what's after. Is that correct, or is it both?
Yes, it's after. So many people come to the team saying, I think this has happened to me, but I'm not certain. How can I'm sorry.
Let me see if I can get that back. Go ahead.
Okay. How can I tell for certain if this has really happened? So members of MUFON's Experiencer Research Team and I came together. I wrote most of the book. I have contributors to the book, and we basically, it is a handbook for anyone who has had these experiences, for anyone who is not certain, for family members, for friends, or for anyone in the public who wants to know more about this topic. It's like a workbook at the end of each chapter. Everything is footnoted. We have a huge bibliography. We have websites of where you can go to learn more information. We even have a chapter on suggestions on what to do if you want this to end. So
That's correct. I mean,
loads of information.
because I know since MUFON has started 50 years ago, it's hard to believe that's been 50 years, but over 120,000 reports for UFO sightings. I'm wondering if the abduction now is starting to either equal or outdo the sightings. Do you know that statistic? Because it seems like more and more people are coming forward and saying, I've been abducted.
Yes, I think people feel safe coming to us. They know that we're not going to reveal their personal information. The ERT has received between generally 100 and 150 cases each month. Not as many people want their cases investigated. They're only looking for help.
Right.
So we have far more formal investigations of sightings than of alien abduction because, as I said, people are looking for help. They don't want a field investigator to determine whether or not their case is real or if it has enough evidence. We teach people how to collect their evidence so that they will know if this is real or not. So they can go to that book, or they can go to a member of our team to discuss all of that.
And the book, when does that come out?
The book is formally being released on September 1st.
September 1st, only a month away, guys, so make sure you go out and get that. And where can you get, like Amazon and all that?
Yeah, Amazon, Barnes & Noble. You can also get an autographed copy from my website at Kathleen-Marden, it's M-A-R-D-E-N, .com. Yes.
Well, Kathleen, as always, thank you, because every time we have you on, you're just amazing, and every time we meet you, you're just lovely, and we really appreciate you being here at the 50th Symposium of MUFON. And where are you located with your group?
Well, I live in Florida, but my group is national and international.
Okay, so you kind of connect just through the internet.
Yes, through MUFON. People only need to go to MUFON.com, scroll down to Experiencer Research Team, learn more, click on that. It takes you to our page, and then you can click at the top of that Experiencer Questionnaire. If you want to talk to a member of our group, you just complete that 30-question questionnaire, and it will connect you to the assistant director of MUFON's Experiencer Research Team. He will assign a member of our team to contact you. So that's the process you use to talk with somebody. Very, very easy.
So if you've been abducted or think you've been abducted or just want to share your stories, this is the lady in MUFON.com. And thank you so much, Kathleen. I really appreciate you, as always.
Thanks for having me again.
Of course. Well, this is Tony Sweet with Captain Ron for Truth Be Told at MUFON's 50th Symposium here in Irvine, California. Take care.